Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So behind me I have a Honda Odyssey with the 3.5 liter, and we're going to be replacing the alternator. Now before I begin the video, I already went ahead and I tested my alternator voltage, and I'm only getting about 9 volts coming out of the alternator, and that's going to be the reason why we're replacing it. So let's go ahead and begin. So before we begin this video, guys, I do want to point out that this video is not going to be the greatest in detail. It's just such a tight area inside of the engine bay to replace the alternator on this thing that I wasn't able to get the camera in the right angles. If I had just left my camera on the tripod, you guys wouldn't have seen anything except for me working on something. So I try to get interactive with the camera and moving it around. Some angles are good, some are bad. And the way I've edited this video is going to be kind of like a chop block style, where it's like step one, step two, step three. And then towards the end, I show you guys how to install the alternator and bolt it up and everything. And then I pretty much cut out to everything being reinstalled. It was just a difficult video to film, guys. Hopefully you guys don't get too upset. If this isn't a great tutorial, then just use it as entertainment, I guess. But I tried my best trying to film this thing. It's just been very, very difficult. So before we dig in and start on the alternator, there's going to be a few things that we're going to have to do. Now we have to disconnect our battery, so we have to remove this cowling, and you're going to find that you have a clip here and a clip here on the corner, guys. And these are your standard body style clips. It's these little two-piece ones. They basically separate. You remove this collar, you pop it off, and then it comes off. Once you remove those two, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and lift up on it, and it should come off pretty effortlessly, just like that. And we're going to go ahead and place this off to the side, just kind of get it out of the way for now, and that'll allow us access to our battery. Now this customer has also complained to me that this battery terminal is very loose, and I'm thinking this is the reason why the alternator went bad. If you have a bad connection between your battery and your terminals, guys, it's always going to create an issue for you, and I believe that's what happened in this case. This is the reason why the alternator failed. So we're going to go ahead and remedy that as well. I'm probably not going to catch this on film. I've done terminals before, but just thought I'd mention that. We're also going to be removing our engine cover. You typically have a little, I guess you can say, a retaining clip that you got to spin out of the way to be able to get your engine cover off. Once you get that off, you just want to set it to the side, and we can go ahead and start off. Now, where I like to start on these is always at the battery, guys. I go ahead and I disconnect my negative terminal because we do not want any live power when we're working on the car, especially when it comes to that power wire on the alternator. And then I'll take you guys down here and show you what we're going to be working with. So we are in the passenger front corner, and just to kind of show you guys, there is no spacing here. That is our alternator down there. We got to get that out of this little hole. Now, where I like to begin normally, and I'll just kind of show you guys, is I like to remove my power steering fluid bottle, my coolant bottle. Sometimes this neck on the washer fluid is removable, and you can, unclip it and remove it out of the way, just to kind of give yourself some working room over here. It's still very difficult because you do have your AC lines in the way, but where I start off is just getting these few items out of the way. So let me go ahead and do that. So I have you guys set up on camera, and what you're going to want to do in order to begin here is you're going to pull your little tab on your power steering reservoir that's on the bracket. Now you guys aren't going to be able to see it until I slide it out of the way here, but if you look at this finger, normally it'll be pushed in, locking it. What you're going to do is just pull it back and then basically get off your power steering reservoir. Now this reservoir doesn't really move out of the way too far, guys, so you will have to disconnect it. And what I do is disconnect it either here or at the pump. It does make a little bit of a mess, but I find it's very useful just to kind of get it out of the way. Gives us a little bit more leverage. So once I figure out what I'm going to do with that, I'll let you guys know which way works best. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and remove this little body clip here that holds our antifreeze. And we're going to go ahead and move that out of the way, and you'll notice that it's kind of rocky, and we have a similar style clip to this all the way here on the bottom. And we're going to go ahead and just use our tool to pull that clip up and lift that up and out of the way. I had to kind of change the camera angle, guys, so this power steering fluid reservoir is fighting me. I'm going to have to disconnect it from what it looks like. What I'm going to choose to do is disconnecting it at the pump here, so I'm going to go ahead and remove my clamp. And I'm going to gently twist this hose out of the way. You want to be very careful Sometimes these break, and the little nipple connector where it connects to on the pump is plastic, so you definitely don't want to break it. Now I'm gonna have to be fairly quick here because this reservoir still has fluid in it, so I'm gonna have to block it really fast so we don't make a huge mess. And let's see if I can just position this up and underneath. These are the little things that take time, guys. I hate saying this, but this is probably like the worst of this job, just making sure the reservoir and everything is out of the way. Now, I like to position this, and you want to be very careful because you really don't have a lot of room here. Now, normally I would like to put it right here, but I can't. So it looks like I'm going to have to disconnect the other end of this as well. And hopefully I don't make a mess here, but I'm going to turn it over to its side, get my little clamp off, do the same exact thing again here, just kind of wiggle it, and let's hopefully take this off and not make a mess. And that actually went pretty well. Then I'm going to set my reservoir here facing up on the side. This way I don't lose my reservoir fluid or anything. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull my bottle out that I wasn't able to get out previously. And same thing with this, guys. I'm going to kind of tilt it off to the side, wiggle this line right here. I'm going to use my pliers. Let me set it down here. And you just want to wiggle these. They do go into plastic. Sometimes the rubber and the plastic have a tendency to stick together. So what you're doing is just separating that bond. And it doesn't take a whole lot. And once you get this off, you're just going to go ahead and set this off to the side as well. And I'm trying to minimize losing as much of the coolant here or fluid, guys. So you just want to be very, very careful not to spill anything. Or if you're getting new fluids, then go ahead and, do as you wish. Now, just by removing the coolant bottle and the power steering pump, we've actually made quite a bit of room here. What I'm going to do is just kind of move my lines here to the side, kind of get them out of the way, and see what I can do with this guy right here. And we made ourselves pretty decent amount of room here. So let me go ahead and get you guys set up and show you. Okay guys, so here's all the room that we made right here where the camera is basically shining through. And what we're going to do next is we're going to remove our belt tension. You're going to want to take your 14mm and put it on your tensioner and just go ahead and remove the belt off one of the pulleys, and then go ahead and release the tension off your tensioner. Now we're going to be replacing our belt, so we don't really need to keep it in line here. But if you're just doing the alternator itself, you may want to keep the belt looped in on all the other pulleys. It should stay fairly simply. Once you've gotten this down, now what we're going to go ahead and do is loosen up our bolts that hold our alternator in. Now we do have one up here, and it's going to be very difficult to show you guys. This job is going to be a cameraman's worst nightmare here to try to record, but we got one bolt right up here, and then we have another bolt right down there. I'm sure the camera picks it up. It's right here. My hand kind of covers it up. And what we're also going to be doing is removing a few odds and ends up here, some things that are in the way to be able to get it out. So let me get set up and I'll show you guys that process. Alright guys, so I went ahead and I got you guys into position here. Now what we're going to be removing is this bolt and this bolt. And what I'm choosing to use is a very long ratchet. I'm going to kind of snake it all the way down here and go ahead and start loosening up the bottom bolt. Now the bottom bolt is going to be the longer bolt of the two. They're both different sizes. I believe the bottom is a 14mm and the top is going to be a 12mm. Now, I won't lie to you guys, I did break these loose before I got on camera here, just because the camera is in the way and I do have to put my hands there, and it's going to prove very difficult. But you got to basically remove this top bolt and that bottom bolt right there. So let me go ahead and do so, and I'll bring you guys back in. I went ahead and I removed my top bolt, guys, and I got my bottom bolt out. Now the bottom bolt is going to be longer, so just be mindful of that. You should be able to clear the frame very easily. It's not really an issue for that, but just be advised it is a little bit longer. So we went ahead and we got our bolts out, guys. You guys saw me do that. I had to wedge you guys in here. Not the most favorable camera condition. Now we need to disconnect our connections on top of the alternator, and you will find you have this wiring loom here. It's kind of in the way. What I'm going to be doing just to kind of mediate this is I'm going to be removing this 10mm bolt and disconnecting a few of these connections to try to get this wiring harness up and out of the way, so that way I can have a little bit more room to work on top of the alternator. And I'm also going to be disconnecting this 10mm bolt right here for these AC lines, just because I need to get a little bit more swing room with the AC lines. They are kind of interfering there, so I'm going to give myself that extra room. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll bring you guys back in. So I went ahead and I removed my 10mm bolt up here, guys. Now my alternator is fairly loose. I should be able to kind of shift it here, as you guys can see. What I'm going to do, and I tried and there's just no way to show it. If you follow this wire down up to about right here, let me see if I can get the light, guys. Normally I like doing a little bit more of a easier video without a bunch of movement, but you know, this video is proving difficult. You're gonna have to remove this boot right here, and that'll basically show you your 10mm alternator charging wire. Now this one is being stubborn with me, and you guys can see right there. Once you remove this bolt right here, this whole wire assembly here should basically come up and lift out of the way. Now, there's no room in there, guys. This is where my hand has to go, and that's where the camera has to feed into. You guys can see it's very tight. I'm going to go ahead and remove that bolt off camera and then bring you guys back in. Just to bring you guys back in and update you, so I went ahead and I got my power wire removed. And right up underneath the power wire, you'll see this blue connector. That's going to be the voltage regulator. Now, the voltage regulator, guys, goes up on the side of this alternator. I'll have to show you this in greater detail when I get it out, simply because there is no room in here, and I just find this thing fighting me. So I have you guys positioned in there. Now that I got my wiring kind of out of the way, and it won't release all the way because of the air conditioner compressor control wire, what we're going to be needing to do is there's a 12mm bolt right here, guys, that holds this bracket onto place. You're going to need to go ahead and remove that. If you don't, I don't really see any way possible to go ahead and take off the actual alternator without it really fighting you. So since it's right up top and very easy to get to, I'm going to go ahead and remove it. I went ahead and I got the bolt broken loose on that bracket, guys, and now I'm just removing it using my socket. The camera's in the way again, so it's, you know, just proving to be difficult on this job, trying to get a good angle to get you guys fitted in there. Now that we have our room here, what you should be able to do is get your alternator. Now, mine rocks pretty good. If yours doesn't, you may want to get a pry bar. Carefully just kind of pry it back and forth, wedge it. There's going to be like a little pin collar that will move, and if you wedge it far enough, it'll loosen up, and you should have a loose fitting alternator like this. Now, this AC line, guys, is going to be pretty much my worst enemy here. You will be fighting this. I believe Honda wants you to evacuate the system in order to get it out. And then what they want you to do is remove the line and get it out through here. What I'm going to do, and I'm probably not going to choose to show this on camera, is I'm going to just try to wiggle this out of here. I've done it before. You can get it out if you really kind of maneuver it and play around with it. Now, I'm going to be needing the real estate right here where the camera is, so just kind of do what's best for you here. I normally just kind of play with it, eventually get it out to here, and I'm able to get it out through my top hole. So I'll bring you guys back once I have that all done. So it's been about 10-15 minutes, guys. As you guys can see, I got my alternator out, and you can see my AC line, everything is still attached. Just to kind of give you guys a heads up, so what I had to wind up doing was I disconnected the AC line up here previously. You guys saw me do that, and what I did was I had to kind of just push this AC line out of the way, kind of move it just a little bit forward. After I did that, I was able to get enough room to get it in through here and then kind of pull it out through this hole. Now, it's not easy because you will be getting caught up on these brackets and things of that nature. If you want to make it easier, you can actually remove these brackets. There's a 10mm there and two 10mm up here, so you get less things to get caught up on. I just kind of wiggled it out and maneuvered it out of the way, and we were able to get it out. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and take this over on the bench and show you guys the little points that you have to disconnect that were right up here tucked away in the corner that I couldn't show you. So I have the alternator on the bench, and this is exactly how the alternator is going to be sitting when it's in the car. Keep in mind it's just lower and there's a bunch of stuff in the way. Now the wiring loom comes up about here, guys, and this is where our alternator power wire is. And then the other connector that I was referring to is going to be this brown connector here. This is our voltage regulator. They're both going to be covered up with some boots just to kind of give you guys a visual here. You will see this has a boot on it, and our blue connector also has this little blue boot on it that I had to kind of, pull out in order to get them out. And the tab for this connector right here, that's the reason why I had to pull the rubber back, was to see where my tab lined up. It's actually facing forward, guys, so even with the rubber boot on there, if you press on the boot, you'll hear a click. It'll be the little popper coming off, and you can just kind of move it out of there. I had to fully remove the boot because I wasn't sure where it was lining up. It could have been in the back or on the front, so I just had to verify. Now that we got it to this stage, guys, what you're going to want to do is take your new alternator and just go ahead and get it prepped. And, we're going to go back on the car and install the new one. So I'm back, guys. I went ahead and I got my new alternator fished in there. As you guys can see, my arms are really tore up here. Just scratched up from, wrestling with it, trying to get it in there. So now that I have that in there, what I'm going to go ahead and opt to do is I'm going to go install my 2 bolts that hold my alternator into place. So I'll get you guys set up and I'll show you. So now that my alternator is in place, guys, I went ahead and I put my bottom bolt in, but I left it fairly loose because I need my alternator to swing. Now, if you guys recall earlier, we removed this bracket. We're going to need to reinstall it, because if you don't reinstall it, you're not going to be able to bolt up your alternator. This is actually the alternator bolt up point. So I'm going to go ahead and reinstall it now. I know you guys are not going to be able to see it. This video is actually horrible to film. I just don't have the proper equipment to get in here, guys. I'm doing my best trying to show you guys every little step, but this video is going to be probably one of the, not going to say the worst ones that I've done, but it's not going to have too much info and stuff here. So what I do is I go ahead and I put that in and I leave it loose. I don't tighten it up yet because this bracket doesn't have a set point. It can be installed in any which way. So what I do is I use the alternator as my lineup guide. So I take my top bolt and I'm going to basically lift up on this bracket until the 2 meet where they're happy, where they should be. And that'll actually help position this bracket. And after I do that, I can go ahead and bolt everything down. Now that I went ahead and I got my alternator bolted up, what I'm going to be doing next is reinstalling my wiring connectors. Now you have your alternator voltage regulator back here, guys, and then you have your power wire up here. Again, very tight cornering here and no space or room to show you, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I just wanted to show you guys that that's the next stage in this process. Alright, guys, so I went ahead and I reinstalled my alternator. I got my connector in the back. I got my power wire attached. Everything is good. I connected my connectors and my wiring loom and bolted it back up where it should go right here. And I also did the same with my AC compressor line. I went ahead and I bolted it back up in the bracket where it should be. We are pretty much done with the alternator at this stage. What we're going to do is go ahead and put the belt on. And once we do that, we're going to reassemble everything. And then everything should be good to go. Alright, guys, so we went ahead and we threw our belt on. Now what we're going to be doing is reinstalling our power steering hose assembly and our cooler bottle for the coolant. So let me go ahead and get those installed and I'll bring you guys right back. Alright, guys, so I went ahead and I installed everything here. The belt's on. I went ahead and I reconnected my battery. Now, I did tell you guys that this terminal was bad at the beginning of the video. I went ahead and I did that off video. I haven't had the time to show you this stuff and video everything, guys. Plus, this car's been kind of real tight to work on. Let's just say I'm not really happy with it right now because I thought this video would go a lot more smoothly, but it hasn't. The only 2 things that I'm missing here is my snorkel and my engine cover, and I left those off just because I got to clean up this engine bay after I'm done with this. So after I did all that, I started the car up. I did a voltage check at my battery, make sure my new alternator is outputting good voltage. And after I did that, guys, I just monitored that everything was good to go and nothing was going on. And pretty much everything is all set. Now, what I'm going to do is clean up this engine bay. They do want it cleaned up, so I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. I have another video that shows how to clean up your engine bays. So with that said, guys, I know this video has been very choppy as far as this alternator. It's been very difficult to try to get you guys in there. You guys can see there's not much room for anything. So hopefully I covered enough and showed you guys enough so there's no questions on how to do this. And if there are, always drop something down in the comment down below and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. So with that said, guys, please comment, like, and subscribe. It definitely helps my channel grow. And I will catch you guys on the next repair. And until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful day.